We wait. All right. We have to wait for the big red live show. We're live, y'all. We're live. All right. This is the Commercial Real Estate News Show, and this is my data center group. Thanks for being here, y'all. Thanks for joining me. And we're going to talk data centers today and all sorts of things. A couple of things about Trump. You know, that guy is just making noise. He's been president for what, a whole 3 days. He's out there making noise, isn't he?
Love him.
Love him.
Love him. He's affecting our world. I can tell you that in a great way. We were already on fire, and now we're really on fire.
You're in fuego. All right. Before we get started, let's everybody introduce themselves. And Howie, my co-host, Howie, go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself.
Howie here again. Avis Young, run the National Data Center Platform for AY. We are focused on all things data center real estate and world-changing AI.
All right, that's awesome. And our newcomer, Steven.
How's it going? Steven Schlinker. I work under Howard Berry at AY, and I was at Data Center Hawk for about 5 years as a senior analyst in the space, working with colo groups, hyperscale end users, brokers, investors, and kind of just a neutral party that spent a lot of time talking with everybody in the industry about what their challenges were and where the pain points were. And now I'm helping Howie and his team solve some of those solutions for some of these big groups.
You went over to the dark side. You started slinging real estate. Look at you.
Yes. So I'm very thankful to be where I'm at.
It's all good. All good.
Learning how to eat what you kill.
Yes.
And Jay.
And Jay Huzzy here. I'm with H5 Data Centers. I'm fortunate to be the director of sales in Northern California, and I drive sales to all of our data centers throughout the U.S.
Awesome sauce.
Happy to be here again this week.
Yay. All right.
Awesome.
Very cool. Well, in case you were hiding under a rock and did not know, we have a new president in the United States, and he came out yesterday with all his buddies with this new Stargate. It's Stargate. I feel like that was the name of a movie, though. Wasn't that a name of a movie?
It was a movie with Kurt Russell.
Yes.
There was a Stargate movie.
Oh, man.
Really?
Yeah. Long time ago.
Kurt Russell and Steven's like.
I remember that. They went through and they ended up in Egypt near the pyramids or something, right? Yeah, that was a good one. I'm going to go back and watch that.
You got to go back. Steve's like, who's Kurt Russell? No, I'm just kidding.
Kurt Russell.
So Stargate. So $500 billion. And then I love the drama. Like when all these billionaires get together and then there's always drama. And now Musk is all hurt because, he wasn't included in the meeting. I don't know what he's talking about, Willis, but okay. Besides the drama with the billionaires, $500 billion, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's actually fairly cool. And I'm assuming they'll all come up with the money for this $500 billion investment, right? I mean, if the government's sponsoring it, it's going to be a pretty easy sell to get the money, right?
Amy, the way we look at that is, $500 billion in Japan. They're planning on deploying 40 million GPUs. And that's going to be around 2 million GPUs per data center. The first launch of that is going to be Caruso's data center in, where is it, Stephen?
Is it Abilene?
Abilene. Right, Abilene, which they're utilizing flare gas, that's easy for me to say, to self-generate power on site, and they're tied to the grid, I think, as well. But they are deploying 1.2 gigawatts. So if you think about it, it's a gigawatt for every 2 million GPUs, and this is pretty big. This is huge.
Yeah, it's so funny. I read the story, and the mayor of Abilene, like nobody gets data centers. Like let's just be real, nobody understands it at all. But the mayor of Abilene was like, "Yeah, we didn't even realize how big it was going to be."
I mean, that's part of the data center world, right? Nobody really, unless you've spent time in it, nobody really gets it. It's just amazingly complicated.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but I think, and anybody who, and once the township gets wind of it, and then they understand how much power actually has to be generated. But if it's self-generating, then who cares, right? No one cares. Like if it's going to, I mean,
that's kind of the sticker on all these different articles, right? Does it come down to taxpayers paying for this, and how, where is it going to really be funded? So at the end of the day, it can't be on the taxpayers
I love the conversation Trump had where he said, look, TikTok, it's only worth the value of America. So without America, you don't have TikTok, and it's probably worth $1 trillion, and America should get $500 billion. This is convenient that we all of a sudden have a $500 billion AI, 40 million GPU deployment. But I just found that really interesting, because it's just like business. Hey, TikTok, you don't survive without America. There's no value.
Yeah.
Well, and in EU, they're trying to TikTok is trying to play nice with the governments over there. None of the social media companies are owned by groups in the EU or in the UK, but TikTok is trying to put a better foot forward for them than they had in the US. They're trying to pitch into community projects. They're trying to play nice with what they're doing over there, because they know that it's important to have these footprints in the Western world. And if they lose the US, as Howie mentioned, that's most of it, but they do have a presence in the EU as well.
So the EU is the plan B.
Totally.
So they're doing a PR campaign. Well, it's smart. It's smart. I mean,
well, they're trying to do it all, like the other groups that have global footprints, but they are they've learned from some of their lessons as far as not playing nice in the U.S.
All right. I really don't like to talk politics that much, but we can't avoid it, like this dude. But doesn't anybody can anybody see the hypocrisy? Like we're gonna like tariff China. Like we don't like China, but somehow TikTok's okay. But that was the whole big thing about TikTok being banned. Like they were banning it here. The governor was banning TikTok in any, state building. Nobody could use it. Universities, nobody could use TikTok in Texas, right? Because he was a Trump fan. And now he's like, no, it's okay. TikTok's okay. Now,
but Amy, how many other platforms are selling our data to China?
Well, who knows? They might all be like,
they might all, maybe Meta grabs a lot of data.
I know.
Everybody's got a business.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's all going through U.S. data centers, so I don't, who knows? Like, who's selling what? They're all at H5 data centers, right, Jay?
Yes, they're all here. That's right. I don't get into the politics part of it either, but the hypocrisy does not escape me at all. It just is funny how flip-floppy it is. And he earned a full flop on that. He, as in President Trump, earned a full flop on the TikTok thing.
He totally flopped on that one. Yep. For sure. All right. So there's another article about how so Biden, when he was doing all his pardoning, he also happened to write an executive order for data centers to be on federal land. We kind of talked about that on this show. And then I'm assuming Trump will keep it around. I mean, it makes sense, right? He might he's not going to just ex-nay everything Biden did. Or do y'all think we were up in the air about that one, having data centers on federal land? Do you think anybody will participate in that? I think it still should be at Old Faithful. I think we should have a data center right next to Old Faithful. No, Stephen, no.
We'll see. I mean, the government has quite a bit of land. Me and Howie are in the powered land business, but I know that there's a lot of challenges. I mean, there's a lot of challenges to delivering power. There's a lot of challenges to delivering fiber to these sites, and so it's they can't just go up anywhere tomorrow. It's really a Goldilocks problem of it has to be just right. It can't be too much this or too much that. And so there's we're seeing those constraints loosen on search requirements, and people are willing to build with timelines that are further out because they know that's all that they can do. But I think that that adoption, especially moving certain things to federal land, is going to take some time, and it's going to have to be in the right markets. I mean, we see most of the government deployments currently in, and Jay knows this as well because they're very present in these markets, in the Denver market, the San Antonio market, and the Northern Virginia market. And so whether it's defense contractors or cloud contracts with Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon, those are the primary three markets where those happen. And so I would say that Albuquerque, that's where I'm from. And there's there's some national lab issues as well. But I would say that we will see if there's a shift to that, but I think it'll take a little bit of time.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that time frame too, and or that longer time frame. And they wanted this to be operational by 2027. I think it's going to take that long for them to identify and say okay on the land. If you ask me, I don't see an operational data center. If they're just doing this now, it's not enough time. It takes a while to do these.
Yeah, it was a little half-hearted kind of. Oh, thanks. Well, you're right.
Yeah, data centers don't even like ground leases. Why would they like government-owned land?
Well, unless we see a shift to the government owning and operating their own data centers at more of a rate than they have. Because for the most...
Oh, Stephen, you froze.
That was a great freeze.
Yeah, that's a great...
Perfect timing, right?
I thought it was just me. I thought it was me again, because last year I froze like this.
We all get a candid.
We do.
Howie, you should get a shot of this. You get a screenshot. Put it on his ID.
Put it up in the office. There he is.
There he is. He's back.
Great. It's recorded. We got it.
I'm back.
We were laughing at your freeze. It was pretty good. You're good.
Great. We got a good screenshot of me.
Yeah, it's good.
It was great. Yeah.
Yes, but they've mostly primarily leased these facilities. They do have some that they own and operate on their own land, but I would say we're going to need to see a shift in that before people build on that land, and it's going to be government specific stuff. I think it's going to be difficult to navigate those contracts. So we'll see how they start off, but we need to see it happen first.
Is difficult to negotiate with? Are you kidding me? They're just so easy. Like what?
Well, I think that people get a lot of money from negotiating with the government, whether you're a weapons contractor or potentially a data center.
Well, that's true.
Attorney.
I think that those contracts are very
for sure. Samuel is watching us from France. Hey, Samuel.
Hey, Samuel.
Hi, Samuel.
PropTech France, which actually I'm glad he's watching, because Samuel, I don't know if you didn't know, but there was a story out, and I didn't send it to these guys, but let's talk a little bit about data centers in Europe, right? Germany has been the big dog for a long time, but I see in France, Samuel, there's like 4 data centers being developed in France. So it's interesting to see, everybody in the AI wars, but Europe is trying to keep pace, sort of. I mean, if you look at the US, we have 5,000 data centers. Nobody's catching us. Like, nice try. Like, we got way too damn many. But they're like, there's 500 in Germany, or like that's number 2, or UK or whatever, right?
There's some difficulties around, and I was just listening to the podcast. It's Not Your Father's Data Center. Great podcast. Anyway, it was a PTC, and they were talking with a bunch of European guys in the data center industry, and they were talking about how difficult it is to get data centers done. And I know I'm gonna lead it to Stephen, because Stephen just got back from PTC, which is the Pacific Teleconference, which is the data center Super Bowl, really, of the industry, where everybody meets up. And Stephen just got back from there, and I'd love to hear what he heard. But I did hear that Europe is particularly having a difficult time expanding the data center market. Greece is getting a little bit better, and there's a few projects going on there. But maybe Spain. I don't know about France. You mentioned France, Amy, but it's kind of interesting.
Yes. So just quick overview Europe, the primary markets, they're considered the FLAP-D market. So that's Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris, and Dublin. And so when we're looking FLAP-D, and so those were the primary markets, and we would see a lot more investment centralized in the primary markets in Europe. And what's happened is there's been a lot of growth kind of south towards the Mediterranean and north in the Nordics, where there's lots of hydropower and it's very cheap. And the issue is power generation. And also just we're looking at these areas and it's just harder to get things done. We talk about California regulations, but EU regulations are also very tough to navigate. And I think that culturally, people in the US are there's much more of an entrepreneurial spirit of, hey, if you can get it done, we're going to get it done. And the Europe is a lot more about culture and tradition, and they're not going to change historical things. They don't want to change the landscape. They have more time off in the Nordics than we do, as we've all thought about living out there to get an extra month off at times. Because that attitude is different, they're not adapting to the AI growth as quickly. And, these companies have learned that they just have to wait. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle, they all understand, Meta, that if they're going to get power in this market, it's going to be 2030. And that's it. And they just have to wait in line. And so the prices are a lot higher, but and it's part of the reason that they are growing. But in general, from an investment standpoint, a lot of groups they discount the EU in some sense because they can get higher margins, but you really can't scale the same way that you can in the US.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I find it, of the markets, you would think, I don't know, there's a lot of infrastructure over there, and I guess they just don't have as much space. I mean, we got a lot of land over here. We got a lot of stuff, but I think it's more just
and it's power. They're not willing to bend on the clean energy stuff that they've planned. And these hyperscale groups are starting to be more, they're having to learn to potentially be more flexible and to kind of maybe work on these big PPA agreements. But when they all announced that, 5-6 years ago, that they were all going to be clean carbon neutral by 2030, they didn't expect
2040.
Growth. They didn't expect the growth that we're seeing right now. So it's really hard for them to keep up with that. And there's been a lot more flexibility around sustainability in the US. I actually have some great points on that, but I'd love to hear what Jay has to think about that and what he's hearing.
In Europe?
In general, from sustainability standpoint.
We get a lot of questions for customers about sustainability. We try to be as sustainable as we can with our sites. Like we'll have some regeneration, or not regeneration, but we'll have some solar power at some of our sites. And, we do have our site in Quincy does use water. So
hydropower.
Hydrogen.
Yes. So sorry, I was stuck on that. Yes, hydropower. So that's sustainable, but we're kind of at the mercy of the utility. Which, we take utility power, so whatever they're providing to us is what we're using. And as a provider, like I said, we can do things to kind of augment that, but our reliability is on the utility. So if they're giving sustainable or different alternative energies, then that's what we can use. But we do see a lot of it from customers. It's definitely something that's moving into customer requests and customer requirements.
So on the sustainability side, is the number one, investment, if you're going to make a sustainability investment, is it just on-site power generation, or have you already pretty much figured out everything that's happening inside of the building and optimized your PUE and done all those other things, and then you're like, okay, what else do we do? Or is it?
It's a two-pronged approach. I mean, one of my favorite quotes actually from this past week when I was at PTC conference, which is, there's just lots of CEOs talking. The one who did this was the head of Adani Connects, who is he said to call him JJ because his name is harder to pronounce, but he's doing he's partnered with Edge Connects on their India investments. And so they're one of the main co-location groups that's leading the way in India for investments in the data center space. And he said that when we're looking at this, I mean, it's a both and approach when we're comparing, hey, are you looking at speed to growth or sustainability? They're trying to balance both. They're trying to grow as quick as possible in a sustainable way. But the 3 points that he said is we want to look at when we're looking at energizing these sites, we're looking at and just the power sources themselves, sustainability, liability, and affordability. So sustainability, liability, and affordability. And so there's really, there's a push to do wind and solar, which is great, but they're not always as reliable power-wise because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. And then affordability, people are talking a lot about these nuclear sites, but if you are able to look at these nuclear projects, they are almost always 2 to 10x over budget, whatever they said they were going to be, whether it's the US or anywhere. Or actually, not anywhere. Anywhere where there's regulations. So the U.S. and the EU. In China, they build them very cheap, but it's not as Americans would not be comfortable with the regulations that they have. So it's kind of a balance of all three of those, and I think that was a good way to frame it because I just think that it's a complex issue, but sustainability, liability, and affordability are the three things that they're kind of navigating when they're trying to figure out what they can do from a green energizing standpoint. But Howie's done a lot of projects like this. What do you think on
self-generation on site? It's the way it's got to go. We're getting there. We're seeing it happen all the time, and now we're less focused. We're focused on where the power is and where we're getting it, but we're also now focused on where's the gas line. Is there capacity? Can we self-generate on site? And we're talking with energy providers that can self-generate on site. It only makes sense. And I keep saying this, and Casey Mares is great. If anybody's ever go to DCAC show with Casey Mares, is one of the best podcasts I've ever heard, with him talking about self-generation on site. And sorry, Amy, we're promoting other channels, but it's all good. That's where we need to be and how we need to think about data center development. It doesn't make any sense to truck our power 200 miles across with an extension cord that can break from a nuclear power station further away. So, and then battery storage. I don't know if anybody saw what happened out in Moss Landing in California. There wasn't just one fire in LA, which was horrible, and sorry for the people there. Prayers go out to those guys. But in Moss Landing, they have a large battery storage containment there, and the couple of the buildings that had battery containment all contained in one large building caught on fire. And once a large building catches on fire with batteries, you gotta let it burn. Which is really interesting because the other part of the development out there, they had the Tesla storage that has compartmentalized smaller buildings that store battery storage. So, we're learning as we go here. Definitely don't store stuff that'll burn that you can't put out the fire, or how do you put out the fire? But anyway, a lot of interesting things going on the renewable side. And when you have a natural disaster like that, that's a problem because there's a lot of contaminants that go in the air, into the water, into the soil.
There's not a whole lot you can do in a fire.
It's not good.
No.
Over strawberries.
Yeah. Well, Howie's right about that, because really we would love to scale the industry in a sustainable way, and we are going to do what we can, but also the way that how quickly things are growing, it's going to have to take intermittent solutions that may be slightly less green as some of us would want. But I think that the industry is doing a good job of pushing the green standard a lot better than other industries have historically. I mean, there's a lot of investment into,
Right.
even though data centers use a lot of power, they're contributing a lot of money to build green power as well.
Not to mention not using water. Sorry, Amy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a PR strategy for sure. I mean, like no one wants them in their backyard. They started suffering from NIMBYism, and it was part of that was like they became known as the power hogs, and is what it is. But Jay, when you look at a site and you're looking at, I mean, I think you always have to temper sustainability improvements with affordability. That they're kind of at opposite ends with one another, right? Sometimes the sustainability improvements don't make sense, don't pencil. But it's always, I'm assuming when you're looking at a site, that's always a consideration, right? When you look
sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's starting to be more of a consideration, but for us, again, it really goes back to the utility, what they're providing. We're not generating, so we don't have that really on our plate right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely something that people look at. If there's a way to get solar, or there's a way to get some sort of hydropower like we use in Quincy, those are good things to do. So, I don't think it's part of our equation right now where we're saying, oh, we've got to be able to have sustainable power here. But I think it's something that definitely shows on the list of items to think about.
So
plus it's cheaper. It's cheaper, Amy. Hydropower is less expensive than any other source.
That's cool. So if you were to look at two sites, magically you had two sites to choose from, Jay, and you were looking at them, and then there was like nobody competing, and there was an offer, and you could choose between one or the other, and one had more sustainable components and the other one didn't. Would you take the more sustainable one, or what is the
if it was reliable and proven to be reliable compared to the other source, which would be your gas or coal, I think we would, definitely take a hard look at it. But for data centers, it's critical capacity. That means no downtime. So we can't rely on something that's not tested or proven, which means we would err to the side of guaranteed uptime.
Yeah, I getcha.
Isn't that customer driven though? Wouldn't you be going where the customer wanted you to go?
I didn't get that in the question from Amy that there was a customer involved. I thought it was my decision to make.
I thought that'd be a driver. Yeah.
Yes, if there was
there's a lot of factors.
Yes, if there was customer input, yes, we would do our best to follow that requirement for sire.
Good.
All right, Howie's just throwing a wrench in the mix.
That's okay. Howie likes to ask me questions right in the middle of things. That's good, Howie. It's good.
I just think it's part of the process.
I totally agree, and you are correct.
Because I think that's what we talk about a lot is everybody's over allocating power on their data centers. Hey, we have 12 now, but we can get to 20, we can get to 30, 40, 50. And that's customer driven. It's like, hey, customer, look, if you're going to want that, then we'll deploy that. We'll take it, we'll use it, we'll build it. And that's customer driven. Yeah.
Well, then again, if that's what the customer wants for expansion, you'd have to look at the available power and what's the plan to, provide more to that space, right? So maybe the site only gets 10 megawatts of power. You got to go back and you got to, get another 10 or whatever it is. So,
right.
Because not every site you can augment with on-site power generation, right? You have to go through hoops in order to do that.
It depends. I would say it depends on the physical space that you have. If you don't have enough room for on-site generation, it's just not going to be an option.
Yeah. Okay. So interesting. So there's a couple of other articles out. Obviously, Amazon is basically taking over a small town in Ohio. I'm just kidding. They would bought 600 acres. Like, do you really need that much land? Do you? Apparently, they do. They need that much land to build a data center, but it's in a smaller market. And there was an article out talking about how basically secondary markets are basically the primary market for data centers. Yes, no? What are y'all seeing? Yes.
We sort of talked about that last week when we were talking about the NFL cities, and then those NFL cities kind of got saturated, and then people started to look in different places. And those are very attractive places. They're usually not overcrowded. They're usually more affordable. They usually have some incentives for people, for data center providers. So they make sense.
Yeah. So
Amy, with that, you were saying, does it make sense for them to buy that much acreage? In 2023, Microsoft bought more land in the United States than all the co-location groups combined, QTS, Vantage, H5. And part of the reason for that is if they go into a market and they only buy 200 megawatts or 200 acres and they end up needing to expand, the other groups are like, oh, well, we can sell them this at an exorbitant price because they have to be here. And so if they come in and they buy it at farmland prices rather than data center prices, and they come in disguise, it's a lot cheaper for them to do it that way. They can get, they can get 600 acres for the price of what they would spend on 100 acres in a market. I'm based out of Dallas. In a Dallas market, you can buy a lot more in the middle of nowhere. Yep. And so they end up opting for that, even if they don't end up using it all. But we see that they don't want to be out leveraged in the future for them to, because, there's times in Northern Virginia, people are buying sites for, I saw an increase from a piece of land that was bought in 2021 and then sold in 2023, 2 years later. It was 23 months later, and it was sold for 11x times what it was purchased for in 2021, because the data center group had to expand, and it wasn't that many acres. It was less than 50 acres, but it was right next to another site that they had to expand on. And so if you have if you can control the land, like Howie said when we were mentioning the federal government side, they want to control the land rather than have an obligation to pay somebody. If they're going to put that much infrastructure on there and billions of dollars worth of assets, they don't want to have to move it again.
Yeah, I can't tell how many times we made offers and they see data center attached to anybody's name and the price doubles. You're like, oh no, that's horrible.
I know, for sure. Yeah. Y'all have to like reach out and stealth. So nobody.
And we don't price by the square foot anymore or by the acre. We price by the kW or by the megawatt, actually.
That's true. But will that change if there's going to be on-site power generation? It's going to be, right? I mean, it's not going to matter.
Natural gas. If you need a fuel source. So maybe that it's going to change a little bit.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, these groups are racing in AI, and so it's all about time to deployment. And so whether that's on-site generation or being the site that's next to a substation or next to current data centers, and that there's more power to be had, that's what's valuable. And if Oracle, Google, AWS, and Microsoft and Meta are all racing in their AI platforms, then they feel like if they're the first ones to general AI, then they're going to win. And that the money that they spent, if they spent a little extra on land, $10 million extra on land, it's nothing compared to what they are going to make on the back end. And so that's how they're viewing it. And so that's how we are trying to, understand what their patterns are. And then we can.
It's been such a shift. Yeah, Amy, from in 2018, we were like, gingerly going along going, okay, is there a natural disaster here? Maybe there's power, maybe there's water, and should we go here? Now we're building Meta's building Louisiana. We got Google in Mississippi. It's like, and natural disasters, whatever, to some point, it's a hard time to get people to go to Florida, for hyperscalers to go to Florida or to go to Houston. They're hesitant to get in where there's hurricanes. But I can't think of a data center that's been affected. That I've heard of that's been affected by a hurricane. Or we have data centers that float that are on. There's a company that actually makes Nautilus, who makes data center floats.
Well, if you think about it, Abilene at the top of the the show, Abilene is in Tornado Alley, and there's tornadoes happening.
Oh, is it Abilene? Really?
Yeah, it's in Tornado Alley. So it happens all the time.
Howie, you made a great point. It is a major shift. I mean, if you look back in 2015, 16, people were saying, "Oh no, we need to be in the middle of the country where there's no rain, no hurricanes, no anything." Right? They wanted to be somewhere perfect. They've thrown that all to the wind now and said, "Hey, you know what? As long as there's power and there's a place for us to build, let's go there, let's get it done. And that just strengthens the argument of the demand in the market. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
They're going to build in Tornado Alley or Hurricane. They're just going to build. Apparently they have enough money so they can build basically a fortress, and it's not going to blow over. I guess that's what they're thinking. I mean, you can build stuff well to survive hurricane.
Yeah. They're robust building. They're hurricane or tornado, proof up to a certain level. Or
yeah. So they're just going to build them just to make sure that it doesn't get down. I'm surprised. So there's 2 more drivers. These stories that came out. I love when people go to Davos because they're all like they pull out their crystal balls and then they talk about all the things that they want to do and and our president got elected, so Davos is trying to steal his thunder, and so he is not a fan. But anyway, but Larry Fink is with BlackRock, and this has more impacts on data centers than we think. But he's trying to get the SEC to push for the stocks and bonds to be to tokenize them, which basically means they're going to be on the blockchain. So we have trades now, but you have trades, but this will make it super complex. I mean, it's obviously it's on a ledger and it's fine, and but it's going to change the whole trading platforms. He wants them to push them to the blockchain. And I'm like, okay, you go, dude. That's fine. I just think that 3x to 4x is the need for data and data centers if they do that. That's just what I think. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He does have as much power as about anybody in.
I think they're all trying to, like, oh, I'm the president's best dude. I don't know.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Larry Fink and BlackRock they were the major legs behind the kind of ESG scores within these companies, and so we'll see what influence that has. I mean, similar to some of the other things, I think that adoption will take a little while if that is really the way that we move, but that would be really interesting.
I mean, as soon as you bring it to stocks and bonds, then it goes to real estate, and then it goes to regular banking. And then, this whole thing is tied to this whole future of crypto, right? Like what are we going to do with crypto and how that's going to be evolving, right? Obviously, Trump is a very crypto-friendly guy, so I think that's interesting too.
He just made more off his crypto coin than he ever did in real estate. So
the meme coin, I swear, I don't get it. I don't understand meme coins. I don't get it. I don't get it. But who knows? I think it's all gold first, dude.
I personally avoid it, but I would. I don't know. It's to each their own.
I'm with you, Stephen.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all should start our own coins. Would the Amy coin sell? I don't know. Maybe you think so?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Sure. Didn't that Huck 2 girl get busted for some kind of coin she started?
If you do it wrong,
if you do it wrong, yeah. Some guys used her. I don't know, for publicity. Yeah.
Oh, who? What are you talking about? I missed that memo.
Never mind. It's a guy thing.
It may not be appropriate for this venue.
Yeah, sorry. I digress.
Get sued for pumping double strategies on meme coins. So he was talking about a different meme coin, but if you just elevate
it was a pump and dump. Yeah.
Yes, you can get sued for
manipulation.
Yeah, manipulation.
Yeah, right.
And
well, isn't that what they're claiming that Trump and that meme coin did? Because a lot of people lost a lot of money that bought it, right?
It's only been out for about a week. So
I know, and it's like we did this thing, right?
Well, that's what they all do. They all just bounce up and down. So it's kind of hard to. I don't know. I'm going to avoid it.
We got too many other things to do right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For sure. But if crypto does become popular, obviously they're taking power too, right? So we're like, if people are crypto mining different coins, right? And then we're going to have, less power out there now. I don't know. There was a conversation that they were talking about how there's this data center analyst. I love when the data center analysts come on. I'm almost as jaded as y'all. I'm saying that I talk with y'all enough now that I'm starting to get really jaded. When people come on and start talking about data centers and they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and I'm sitting there and this guy's on CNBC and he's like, blah, 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 and it's like, going, that is not, what are you saying? And I think I'm coming to the side.
I remember being at an event and somebody talking about how to turn office buildings into data centers and the stuff they were saying. I was going, where did you get that information? Like, that's the huge circle of people around her at this event talking about it. I'm like, she goes, I just read about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's complicated. It's complicated for us. Even sometimes we're going like, how is this happening? But and the data center industry is so secretive. It's hard to get information.
Yeah, no, that's true. So they were generally talking about how because crypto, obviously, that's technically a data center, right? They're computing and they're mining, crypto miners. They're technically data centers, right? And so his big thing was, we were talking about this, I don't know how like 6 months ago or whatever, where people were trying to find where those those mining locations were, because they had power, they had available power there. And so if there was not going to be any mining happening, maybe we could turn that into a data center, right? That was like the big thing. Well, that was like the newest story coming out. That's what they were talking about. I was like, dude, that's like so old. That's like yesterday. That's like last year. That's so last year.
Well, it's interesting, Amy, because a lot of the crypto guys are hiding. Like they could be literally hiding in the middle of a solar field.
Yeah.
Like they're part of a power generation area. And the other problem with the crypto miners is they might have a power agreement with utility company, but they also have load shedding agreements that the utility company says, hey guys, we need all this power. We're shutting you down when we want to, or we need to use it somewhere else. And that doesn't work for a data center. That's a problem.
Yeah, I know. So
and Jay was all about that. He was just talking about the critical infrastructure and mission critical, and so he knows the differences of those workloads.
Yeah, I just lost my train of thought on what Howie was saying though. Howie, will you repeat?
I was saying about the crypto load shedding of power and crypto miners in sitting in the middle of solar fields. They're just random places because we had groups asking us to locate publicly traded crypto mining sites, and you're like, good luck. They're so hidden.
They are hidden. And the other thing that's happening is utilities, if they know that there are crypto miners in your facility, they'll hit you with other fees. So providers don't want those fees to come from utilities, and if they hit you with those fees, sometimes they'll make them permanent if they think they can. So you have to, you really have to be careful with that, and not, and ensure that if you're trying to stay away from crypto, you do so. So it really depends. There are some data centers that are specifically built for crypto. I mean, Elon built one, right? The thing he had for a long time, and I think it was Texas or someplace like that. But that just chugged along, taking power all the time. It really didn't do much, but use power.
Yes. And people see more of the public good for data centers because they like using the internet. They like doing all the things on their phone. But with crypto stuff, public utilities, public officials, they do not prefer that at all. And any of the sites that we have, it's a lot easier to get power to your site if your end user is confirmed to be a data center company rather than a crypto mining company.
Yes, correct.
Hey, I want to change the subject a little bit, and I wanted to bring up one last thing while we're finishing up on here. And I was talking to Stephen earlier about, and a big takeaway that from PTC. Stephen, can you share that what you learned? One of the biggest takeaways that you got from PTC?
Absolutely. And so when we were, there's a lot of great sessions, but one of them, I believe it was the head of operation. She was the head of operations for NVIDIA's AI supercomputing. And so they're really trying to figure out what AI is looking like going forward. And, some of the next steps are around physical artificial intelligence. They were talking about, in the future, them having bees, like artificial intelligence bees that spread pollen the way the bees do, and like act like bees so that the other bees don't attack them or whatever. And so they talked about artificial intelligence. They talked about gene mapping and just understanding health. They talked about what a huge disruptor it will be in the healthcare industry, the insurance industry. If you're able to find, hey, who can give you the solutions the quickest for your health problems? Would you even be seeing doctors the way that you do now, or would you outsource all that to places all over the world, and artificial intelligence connecting you with a doctor in Pakistan or a doctor in Japan, and you working with them instead of through your current healthcare system where you're overcharged and kind of billed by everybody who it goes through. There's just ways that, unless you have to be treated physically, that's going to change. And they just had all these very interesting market interrupter or market changing ideas in different ways that this will be different over time. And so I think that we're just kind of scratching the surface. Sam Altman in December said that the previous 18 months was about 10x what, as far as what AI has learned than from the 18 months before, from when they got started and had gotten going. And so he just thinks it's going to continue to grow in the same sense. And I think that once we're seeing physical AI stuff come into play, it's going to be very different. I don't know if we're there yet, but it was just interesting to hear all the theories on where artificial intelligence is going and what areas can be affected by it.
There's an AI dog collar that allows you to understand what your dog is telling you.
I don't want to know.
Yes, there is. There is an
I
AI
don't
dog collar.
know what he's saying.
That's like the movie Up, where it had it around and it talks to you.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Hi, my name's Doug.
Correct. They do have that. So they're saying we'll be able to talk to whales. We'll be able to, talk to the animals. We'll all become
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, right?
Dr. Doolittle.
Doolittle, that's it. Sorry.
I'll be
Thank
Dr.
you.
Doolittle.
Interesting. That's super cool. I mean, yeah. So they're talking about physical AI. I'm assuming they mean robots, right? Or wearable devices.
Robots, and then, but also, I mean, they were talking about how, I mean, there's lots of use cases for this. In one of the professors was from Japan who was talking, and he said that because of their population issues, that they're going to be able to. It's not taking away jobs, but it's enabling the people who are there and the less population to still do as much or more with less people. And it's not about, I mean, it's similar to maybe email and stuff. Like it took away certain jobs, but it enables so many more jobs to happen. And so it's really not as doom and gloom as we can make it in some of the movies and stuff, but it's like any technology. It could be used for good, it could be used for bad, but we want to stay optimistic and try to help the good solutions come through.
I think it's one of the greatest inventions we've had, and but it's going to be the biggest disruptor we've ever had in our lives, because it's going to be, people are going to have to adopt change, and it's going to become, everybody's going to be a function of their life and in something they do. So
yeah, for sure. And I think nobody knows what it is. I mean, obviously early days and nobody really kind of knows where it's sitting, but I mean, we're deploying AI agents now, and it's sick.
That's cool.
It's sick. And honestly, I can code. Like, I would never be able to code before. I've never coded. I took a coding class. I'm going to say how old I am, at Purdue, and way back in the day. And I died in the class. I barely passed. Right. And I never coded after that, but I can code now because it's like modular, and you just I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. And you just tell it what you want it to do. And it goes,
wow.
Here you go, ta-da. And it's sick how cool it is. I mean, there's a little more depending on the automations and the agents you want to make. Like if you use Make or use N8N or use different ones that kind of help it. But still,
Amy, what's an AI agent? Is it something the federal government, like the FBI, CIA? What's an agent?
That's a really bad name, by the way. They should have come up with a different name. We're calling them AI employees, basically,
Employees, yeah.
AI teams. So we're calling them teams because you think about it, it's what you would give a person to do. You would actually deploy 5 different AI employees to do, because you want to have guardrails, right? So you want to have them to do like certain tasks, and that's all they do. They just this one part of the task, and then they complete that task, right? That helps kind of make sure they don't hallucinate and go crazy town and do crazy things, right? But the agents or employees or whatever you want to call them, bots. Some people call them bots, but it's not a bot because it actually is performing tasks and
Like a personal assistant?
Yeah, some of those, right? Some of them are CRM based. Some of them are, for us, they're like estimation. We can do estimating. You can do project management. You can do all sorts of different things with them, right? And so it's early days, but no joke. I was talking to my development team that is helping us build out these agents. They call them agents, but he's like, Amy, he goes, in a year, everybody's going to be using these. He goes, just wait. It's a year. He goes, it's moving so fast because AI is enabling so many people to get in that everybody will have an agent deployed on somewhere on their computer screen, helping them do a bunch of different things. Right. Wow. Yeah. He goes, so this time next year, mark my words, and everybody on this call will be using agents all the time. And you're probably already using AI, don't even know it, because every Google search now uses AI.
Right.
Every time you pick up your phone, you're using AI. Every time you probably talk to you open your refrigerator door, you're probably using AI, right? I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Refrigerator.
I need to get your fridge.
I know.
What's going on your fridge?
Not my fridge. That was like a collective you. Not my fridge. My fridge is old.
Gotcha. Well, I've done that. I've done that where I did this thing. It tells me what foods I should eat or not eat, and I dumped it into AI and give me a 5-day menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with these ingredients, and it's like not even a second. Boom, here, and a grocery list. Like, come on, that's insane.
That's great.
It's amazing what AI can do. But I think but if you talk to like we're kind of leading edge because we're techie, right? And all this other stuff. We're probably the first adopters to use AI. And I know OpenAI has a lot of users. Honestly, I think it's the same 20 people who's using it over and over. No, I'm just kidding. But but you talk to like normal people, they're not using AI. They might use it to do a Google search.
Are we not normal?
Well, we're not normal. We're kind of cutting edge a little.
There are younger. So I help with students at my church, and I know for sure that a lot of them are starting to use AI to help write papers or get them started on. I mean, maybe they just turn it in what it says.
Why wouldn't you?
No. In my master's program, they're saying use it. Like I'm in a master's program right now, and one of my professors is like, use it. Use ChatGPT. That's what it's there for. We're in a technology commercialization degree. Why aren't you using all the tech available to you? Right? Sure.
That's cool.
Like,
the adoption, it'll happen generationally as well as also as it comes in. But we're gonna see a lot of.
Maybe Grandpa won't get it as quick, but it'll happen.
No,
the AI cane.
Yeah, I think the AI PC, like what Jensen at CES was showing us, the AI PC. I think that brings all the people who have been cut off by technology back to us, right? I don't have to be my 82-year-old dad's tech support anymore, right? He can just talk to his computer and tell his computer what he wants it to do, and then they can have arguments. I'm gonna have an argument with my 82-year-old dad. Dad, do you see the clip thing? That's how you attach to an email. Like I don't have to do this 100 times. I'm just so excited. Over and over and over. All right, last story, and we're almost out of here. And this has been so much fun. Just predictions on the China-US AI war. What do we think? Because, there's people talking about it. And we don't like China already, but they're kind of, you can't ignore it.
it's so hard to believe anything, in my opinion, that comes, from there to that you can't put a whole lot of weight in it. But if there's some way that they can prove that they've somehow stepped ahead of AI in America, well, all the power to them. I think it's so new that anything that's happening right now just makes it, either better or something that doesn't need to be part of the equation.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. I mean, and maybe that's why the focus on the infrastructure is the case, because you're not going to be able to develop AI as much if you don't have the infrastructure in place, right?
Correct.
Maybe that's the thought behind it. And they don't have the infrastructure we do, not even close.
Yeah, absolutely not. So I would, my understanding was about 9 months ago that 90% of the 85 to 90% of the artificial intelligence deployments were in the United States. So not even Canada. And part of that was because we're building so quickly that EU couldn't really keep up. And then there's certain regulations around certain servers getting to spots in APAC. And so they really still the majority of artificial intelligence investment has stayed in the US. And both administrations are very keen on that still being the case. And so I would say that the race is being won by the United States so far, but we do know that there is lots of maybe copycat or patent infringements that happen all the time in APAC and to US technologies. And so I would say that there will be something catching up. I think that as long as we I think we need to keep a close eye on things. I think that any government having too much say over artificial intelligence and too much control over it could be catastrophic for us long term, whether it's our government or theirs. But I would say that in general, we are, as long as it's a free market thing, I think that we're still in far and away ahead.
I like how he tap dances. He did so good. Steven, you did so good. You were tap dancing.
I can do that.
I learned from Howie.
I can do that. Here's my response. Make America great.
Let's talk about and not talk
my China prediction.
It's your China prediction? I mean, he if we talk about the man, Mr. Trump, he was on the World Economic Forum today, and he did say, oh, by the way, if you're going to make something, you better make it in America. Otherwise, I'm going to tariff it. And I was floored. And part of it was because when we sell goods anywhere else, like the U.S. exports anywhere else, it's tariffed. Even in the EU, they tax it, right? So I think he's just trying to be fair, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this whole tariff thing. I don't know. Sometimes he blows hot air, and sometimes he means it. And I don't think anybody knows when he's doing one or the other. So he's like a wild card. So I guess they have to believe him, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Take chances.
I think those are credible threats. I don't think it'll be just a flat out tariff that's equal for everybody. I think there's a way that it will happen based on which countries and which partners that we have. But I think that there will be tariffs implemented in the near future.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, okay for the data center industry in the U.S., right? I mean, I don't think that impacts the tariff, or does it? Am I missing something? Do the tariffs impact the data center industry at all?
Not as much nearly as other industries, but I mean, it's better for the taxpayers for us to pay less taxes. I mean, there's models where they can eliminate income tax if they implement tariffs correctly. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening, buddy. Nice try, though.
Well, once you give up power to the government, they don't really love to give it back. So no. I doubt we're going to actually eliminate income tax, but there's models where they could.
Huh. Interesting. I haven't seen that model, but that's interesting. I haven't seen that at all. But but then
ask AI agent.
Yeah, exactly. I got to make an AI agent for that to determine economic policy. What am I waiting on? I mean, like, seriously. And that's what they should be using. They should be using AI to help run the government. Well, this has been super fun, y'all. We're here. We're at our hour. And this has been another week of data center news. So thanks, y'all, for coming. Let parting information. If somebody really wants to get a hold of you, how could they do that? Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, I work with Howie, Stephen.Schlinker at avisandyoung.com. Amy, Jay, thanks for letting me join today. And sorry if I talk too much, but there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in this space.
That's
and
awesome.
I actually got to talk to some of Jay's counterparts at H5 when I was out at PTC. I have their great hat right here. I got some merch from different people at different things, but it's got the H5 logo. Yeah. And so they've got there was a lot of
I want merch. Company. I want merch, Jay. Can you send me some merch? I want some merch.
Of course. I'll send you some stuff. Of course I will.
Getting merch. All right, Jay, your turn.
So I can be reached at jay.hus as in Sam, S as in Sam, EY at h5datacenters.com. If you want to reach me by phone, feel free to call me at 415-933-6244. And I'm very happy to be on the show here. Really, really looking forward to next week. And Howie, Amy, good to see you. And Stephen, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, very cool. And Mr. Howie.
Yes, you can email me at howard.berry@avisandyoung.com. That's howard.berry, avisandyoung.com. You can also Google Avis and Young Data Center, and we pop up. We've got a team here growing. We just added a new team member out of Nashville. So we are growing. We're 4 brokers strong now, and loving the business. We've got a lot to do.
That's so cool. And the only other plug I would make is I'm Amy Palvido. I'm the chair of the U.S. PropTech Council. We have out now a data center sustainability survey. So if you are in the data center industry, we'd love to get your thoughts on that. So that'll be on our website. So everybody go in there and fill it out. That would be great. And see y'all next week.
We'll post it on our LinkedIn. That's great, Amy. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. We'll see you guys. Take care.
Okay. Right. Jay is out.
Jay is out.